Hey out there, internet land. Welcome to today's module. This is module number 8, how to induce callus formation. So, what exactly is callus formation? What does that mean? Callus is the mass of undifferentiated cell tissue that doesn't know whether or not it is roots or shoots. Being able to create callus tissue is a critical part of the tissue culture process. This is the step that will allow you to mass micropropagate any of the genetics that you have already in culture. This is the process that will allow you to take one tiny piece of tissue and create mass amounts of the tissue. When we learned about multiplication, we learned about shoot proliferation. We learned about how to make more branches, more leaves, more stems off of the amount of tissue that we originally put in. This is actually creating more of that base tissue. It is there again, the undifferentiated cell tissue before it has decided whether or not it is a shoot or a root. So the callus formation will allow for complete regeneration of the entire plant. So this is something that you really need to master if you want to mass produce tissue culture plants. And what does callus formation look like? Much like the image on the screen. Some of it's going to be green, some of it's going to be brown, some of it's going to be a little bit more compact than others. It comes in multiple different forms. When there's no light present at all, a lot of times it's white. So let's talk about the basics of callus tissue. Well, it develops in response to external stimuli, which are your PGRs, your light, your temperature, things like that. You can form it from multiple parts of the plant. Almost any part of the plant can form this type of tissue. That being said, different types of tissue or different types of explants or different selections of explant are better suited for some purposes than others. This is the precursory material to your shoots, roots, or somatic embryos. This is truly the genetic playground, right? Where you get to decide what you want to do, and you get to mass produce the culture itself. So this is on screen. Here is a photo of a large mass of the tissue, so you can kind of get a better idea of what it looks like up close. And let's go to a full screen view of that. There you are. As you can see, it's just a mass of cells that are just compacted together there in one lump. It almost resembles earwax or even a mineral, from the ground. It's very similar. So what are the key factors to creating the callus? Well, your explant source matters, just as we spoke earlier. You can create it from leaves, you can create it from stem material, you can take it from root material. The nutritional media composition is crucial. If it doesn't have the proper nutrients, it will not grow the callus material. And the plant growth regulators is truly the key. That is the key to making it create the callus formation as opposed to shoot proliferation or root formation. And then finally, your environmental conditions significantly impact the formation of the callus tissue. So for me, this is a basic callus induction media recipe. If you guys want to take a screenshot or if you want to take a look at that, write it down. Your base media is going to be very similar to what we've spoken about before. That's going to be 4.4 grams of MS media. And I like to use the Mershigian Scooge with vitamins. That's per liter. Let's see, and then we've got your sucrose at 30 grams. There again, about the same. Agar between 7 and 8 grams per liter. And you'll adjust the pH to 5.7 to 5.8 before you autoclave the mixture. Now, I will tell you because you are using a different type of PGR. The PGRs that we're going to be discussing in this module cannot be autoclaved. They are not co-autoclavable. You must syringe filter them, and we'll discuss that in just a moment. But you have a couple of different options when it comes to adding your plant growth regulators. You could either use 2,4-D, which is a 2,4-dichlorophenoxyacetic acid, or in combination with benzylamino-purine, or you can use the naphthalene acetic acid in combination with benzylamino-purine. Those are two fantastic combinations that I've used many, many times to make it work. I generally have NAA and BAP on hand all the time. I may not always have the 2,4-D on hand. However, the 2,4-D does work significantly better than the NAA. So 2,4-D, if at 2 milligrams per liter is all you're really looking for. And the ratio here, now look at the ratio on option number 1. You're looking at 2 milligrams per liter of your 2,4-D and only 0.5 milligrams per liter of your BAP. When it comes to option number 2, I generally would suggest either a 1 milligram on the NAA and 0.5 of your BAP up to 1 milligram. So then you're at an exact equal ratio. The incubation conditions. Now, once you put your explant into culture, you need to incubate it, okay? Because you're not trying to grow a plantlet, you're trying to grow callus formation. Callus formation generally will form and grow much better at room temperatures in a dark or very low light area. That is key. Dark and very low light make a big difference. I'll actually show you in a moment. I've got some that I had in my general grow room that did not go into a dark space, and it did promote shoot proliferation, and you'll see that as well. Remember, we have multiple plant growth hormones in the mixture, and the cell tissue itself doesn't know whether it wants to be shoots or roots, so it will respond to your environmental conditions. It generally is going to take you between 2 weeks and a month before you really start seeing anything happen when you put that in. So that's your typical observation period. So what are the multiple types of callus formation? You've basically got two different types of callus formation. You've got compact and friable, okay? Compact callus is a dense and organized growth material. It generally has really tight packed cells. You'll be able to visibly see this and feel it with your utensils. It is kind of a solid and uniform in texture, and it is typically the slower growing of the two types of callus tissue. Now what you're going to end up with is a mass of tissue that contains both callus and friable tissue in it. There's just multiple parts when you go to subdivide it, and you'll learn this through through your experimentation, which is which. The compact callus often indicates that there is a lower regeneration potential. In other words, friable material puts out better growth easier. It is more commonly found in woody or more mature plant tissues. So if you've had something that's in culture for a while, or you're dealing with a part of the plant that's a little older part of the plant, you generally will come out with more of the callus tissue than you do the friable. Totally normal. As far as friable callus, this is your more loose and earwaxy looking material, and it is highly reactive. All right, this is the one that's easy to just pull apart. It's easy to separate. You don't even necessarily have to cut it. It appears soft and granular, almost like little clumps of sand, or the kinetic sand, clumped up together. It basically looks a lot like that. It has a much higher cell division and growth rate than compact tissue, and it has a much higher potential for plant regeneration. Now, what do I mean when I say plant regeneration? Plant regeneration is actually growing the plant out, okay? Not just getting it to multiply or getting it to root, but to actually grow the plant out. It does have a much higher potential of regeneration with the friable callus material, and it's generally easier to manipulate in the tissue culture media. Now here is an image of two little clusters of uh, compact and friable material, and you can see that the CC is let's see, let me see if let's see, well, it's behind me, but you can see the areas that are labeled CC are the compact callus, and then the other areas with FC are the friable callus. And you can see the difference in color, you can see the difference in texture. Let's go to a full screen and look at that. And this should give you a great representation of which parts of the callus material are which. Now, yes, you can use and you will use both types of callus material. However, when you go to separate this and flask it up or put it into a plate or put it into a jar, it is best to note which you're using, whether it be compact or friable, and keep those notes in your research for future use. Okay, so what's next? Now that you've formed a big ball of callus material, what are you supposed to do with it? Well, that's easy, folks. That's when it is time to decide whether you want to make shoots or roots. Okay, it is time to decide whether you want to uh, promote organogenesis or somatic embryogenesis. And what is that? What does that mean? Organogenesis is simply forming the plant organs, shoots and roots. If you want to put it into a rooting media, or if you wanted to put it into a multiplication media, that's where you would go with direct organogenesis. You're creating the organ type that you're choosing. Then you have somatic embryogenesis. Somatic embryogenesis is truly creating an embryo-like structure, like what you would find coming out of a seed embryo or a zygotic embryo. It very closely mimics the natural embryo development, of a zygote. Both methods, whether it be organogenesis or somatic embryogenesis, will regenerate an entire plant. So here are some representations of what that looks like in the stages that you go through with somatic embryogenesis. And you start off with your callus material, as you can see, and it moves into more of the little globular growth that will grow on the callus material. Those little globular portions will then transform into like a heart-shaped or torpedo-shaped, portion, and then finally will develop into the plantlet itself, and it'll mimic little leaves coming out or shoots coming out of the callus material. And then finally, you can go to regeneration of the whole plant. Here's another visual representation of what that looks like from a leaf explant. And as you can see, there's a cutting from the leaf. It will grow the little globular growth onto it. As you move on to the segment of tissue that's just a mass of globular tissue, that's your callus formation. And then you see the little, on the right hand side there, you see the little hearts forming all over that tissue. That is where we go into the heart-shaped growth. Now from that point, you can take the hearts off individually, okay, and you can go through direct secondary embryogenesis or indirect. If you go with indirect, you're putting it right back into another callus media, and it will either grow callus or it'll grow more shoots. If you put it into a multiplication media, you'll end up growing more of the plantlets to grow out. So here is a little closer to a visual representation of what the actual stages look like, going from the callus tissue to the in photo B, you're seeing the globular formation. In C, it's beginning to swell. And then in D, you're already seeing part of that heart formation. You're seeing it kind of spread off to where it's got two little lobes on it that very closely resemble hearts. And as it progresses, by the time you get down to G, you can see that those hearts are very pronounced, and they actually stick above the callus formation in photo H. By the time you get to I, you are there at your cotyledon, or your little plantlet phase, where it's actually growing a small plantlet off of that globular material. Here's another representation to kind of show you image A starts off with your globular material. It begins to swell in image B. By C, you've got little plantlets or the heart-shaped growth coming out, and by D, you've got your cotyledons, and by E and F, you're already dealing with small little plantlets. All right, so how do we optimize the growth? Because this is a tricky process. It's not like it's going to go the same way every single time. The things that you need to keep in mind and do regularly are the subculturing. Every 3 to 4 weeks, you need to be subculturing that. What that's going to do is keep from having your material go necrotic or die out. And that will happen. It will run out of media. It isn't really, you're keeping it in the dark, so it's not growing the same way that a normal plantlet would. It's just the callus material. So in order to keep that going, you've got to feed it and you've got to subculture it regularly. The media adjustments based on the type of callus material that you're wanting to create, whether it be compact or friable, or if you want to get a little faster growth or slow the growth rate down, that's where you would adjust your media each time you go to subculture. If you notice that the callus material is too soft and it's just falling apart and you don't like the way that it's working, you can reduce the oxen level a little bit, which would be either your NAA or your 2,4-D. If the tissue is turning brown, you can always add the activated charcoal, as we've discussed before, and that does absorb some of the phenolic compounds and reduces the amount of browning of the media. If you would like to slow the growth down, or if you've got slow growth and you want to speed that up a little bit, you can increase the amount of sucrose or sugar that you add to your media. Remember, folks, continuous monitoring is key to good research. You want to be checking it regularly and taking notes. That is the end of module number 8. We have completed the entire lesson. Now there will be bonus footage and bonus material coming out over the next day or two, and you're going to want to pay attention to that. Watch that. It'll show you how to use some of the material that we have. We'll even go through a live demonstration on callus formation, subculturing, and how to do that. So stick around. Make sure that you're taking your quizzes. Make sure that you are actually digesting the material. That's the reason that I make these videos in short little digestible chunks, so that you're able to absorb the material, absorb the information, and then go further in small incremental steps that are kind of time sensitive. Most of these things take a little while, a few weeks or a month or two, to actually happen and to complete each stage. So by staggering these modules out, you're able to take your time, do the things you need to do, absorb that information, and truly learn the material as you're going through the process. So, hey, I hope you have enjoyed watching this module. I hope it was informative for you. And remember, we love to see your photos in the Discord server. You guys are all mad scientists. You should definitely be in the Discord. You should definitely be taking advantage of all that the Discord server has to offer, as well as our live sessions, either weekly or every other week in the TCVC. So thank you for watching. You have a fantastic rest of your day, and happy culturing.